Hi, I'm Meaghan Chitwood, and welcome to From Overlooked to Consistently Booked. This month, I am joined by Dutch Kerr of Swipe for a Cause, and I thought there was no one better to talk about this particular topic of service selling than my friend Dutch. Welcome to the show, Dutch, and we're just going to have a great conversation about what your business is and how it ultimately works. So first, I want you to tell us your B&I story.
My B&I story. Well, I've got many B&I stories.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, the reason why I'm with Swipe for a Cause is because of B&I. So I was a member of a B&I in Rhode Island called City Biz. And at the time, I was vice president of a distribution company. And when I kept hearing this fellow B&I, Andy, who was there, and he would talk every week, of course, about Swipe for a Cause and what they did. And so I said, well, let's get to a one-to-one. I want to learn more about what he was doing. So we were having a one-to-one. And a one-to-one turned into about over an hour, maybe 2 hours, because he was talking about his wife, his first wife, and how she had passed away. And my dad had passed away. And the thing that Swipe for a Cause does, the reason why it was formatted was to donate to hospice in honor. He had formed the company with some other people in order to fund hospice in memory of his wife and the people they had lost. And so we were commiserating about, and just really supporting each other about our losses, my dad's passing. And before it was over, I said, I'm going to come work for you. And Andy said, well, unfortunately, we're not hiring. And I said, well, look, I've got to give him at least 3 weeks notice. And he said, well, we're not hiring. And I said, well, yeah, you are. And it's just, we got to figure that out. And I was persistent, know your outcome, find a different way to get it. Yep. I was convinced this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to work for a company doing what I do best, which is sales, but do it in a way that I was supporting something that was dear to me and something that would help out the community. And now I've been with Swipe for a Cause for 12 years. I've been with B&I for probably 14.
Yes.
And it's just been hand in hand, B&I and Swipe for a Cause all the way through. In fact, one of the things that Swipe for a Cause encourages or kind of demands from their people is an involvement in B&I. So it's really, really an important aspect of the business as well. So.
And then what brought you to Huntsville?
Okay, well, that's
because it's clear you're not from around here.
Yeah. Well,
right.
I don't have the.
You don't have the accent down yet.
Yeah. Well, you should hear some of the accents of the people who work in the company in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Forget about it. No. So my wife, Libby, is from Huntsville, and she was a therapist in Boston when we were dating. And the funny thing about Libby is when we had our 3-year-old. Well, now he's 3-year-old, but when he was first born, and we would come down to Huntsville for Christmas. She has this thing when she's really happy, she hums a lot. And every time we were on our way to Huntsville, she was humming, but she wasn't humming on the way back to Rhode Island. So I went to the company. I love to tell people, I had this great idea because Huntsville is such an amazing town and it's booming, that I had this great thought of, this great place to open a business. And boy, would I be a really smart entrepreneur if that was true. But really what it was my wife was from here. So I went to the owners of the company and I told them, even though we had a great operation, I was doing really, around many, many clients. And I said, I want to open an office in Huntsville. And they were like, they knew why. And it's been amazing. And it is actually, that's a lot of when you do something for someone else, they just naturally, well, of course, it's your wife, you're going to do something for her, but it just naturally comes that, success just follows. It's very strange, but I found that my whole life that when you're doing something for someone and you're putting them first, your happiness expands. Like I've never been happier down here. And your life just gets better. It's a weird thing when you're not, when you're not thinking, when you're thinking outside yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. Things just change. Everything changes.
That is awesome. So tell us a little bit more about Swipe for a Cause and what it does.
Okay. So Swipe for a Cause is like anybody, it's a credit card processing company. It pretty much runs on, many principles, but 3 that I think are crucial. One is the customer service. There's no one. I mean, you're not calling a 1-800 number. You have the cell phone number of the person who represents you, and you call them if you have any issue. Now, sometimes they may have to call a 1-800 number, but the idea is not to interfere with your business. So if you have something that's going wrong, we keep your business running and we take care of the problem. And we usually we have a standard of you will hear back from us within 15 minutes. And then we solve the problem. And quite often, a lot of times, we've been doing this so long that we know exactly what the problem is and we can help it. And because they're usually common errors. So that's one principle. The other principle, obviously, community. A portion of all profits that Swipe for a Cause makes obviously goes locally to hospice. Down here, it's a different. Every area has a different hospice that they represent. And then retention. Constant, not to the point where you're annoying,
right?
But we check in because, unfortunately, with credit card processing, a lot of businesses they don't have the time to keep an eye on it, and so I feel that it's a very important thing for us to keep an eye on it for them. So we watch everything and make sure that if there's anything we can do, and we reevaluate them a lot to make sure that, and that's why we have such a high retention rate. People really, we have. When the company opened way back, I guess in 2010 or so, they opened this little tiny auto body shop, and it's still with us today.
That's awesome.
And they always say, never leaving you guys. So it's very cool.
Well, I think it's interesting too that you have separated yourself, one, with the customer service, it sounds like that you provide as well, but also the fact that you have a cause. So if a customer has a direct experience with hospice specifically,
right?
Like, oh, of course I would want a portion of my credit card processing, to go to that. It's a really interesting, unique selling proposition you have there.
And the good thing about it is, so what people do, it's not really it doesn't affect them. Because it's from the profit that the company makes. Yeah. So they're actually saving money because we always beat people's pricing. And then at the same time, they know that they're helping out.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know, when you have something behind it, when you have a cause, it makes it just a little bit more than just business,
Yeah, absolutely. So credit card processing is getting a better name.
Yes.
I think. Under my perspective, it's getting a better name. But it used to have a really, really bad name. So how have you taken to the helping and the service and all of those kinds of things to kind of turn around? It's for specifically, obviously, for your company.
Well, I think the first thing is you have to recognize the problems with it. So when you have a client and they're upset about something, it's you can empathize with that because you understand what it is. You've heard about it. It's not usually you run into the same kind of problems. And sometimes it's just saying to them, look, I understand this is just how this is. We're going to fix it, or I understand. Let me see how I can make it better for you. And sometimes it's just asking questions. Like, I know this is upsetting, but also we somehow get a lot of people tell us a lot of things about what's going on with them otherwise in the business too. And so sometimes we get into that as well.
How do you broach that? How do you, I guess, open that gate for them to talk to you about that?
Because you're checking in with them all the time. How are things going? And, in any business, it's not just credit card processing. It's not unique to Swipe for. If you just ask somebody how they're doing, they'll tell you. If you ask them generally, we all say, hey, how you doing? Well, I'm good. How you doing? But the truth of the matter is it's curiosity. So be curious. The people that work for Swipe for a Cause are very curious about their clients. They want to know how they're doing. They care. And that's kind of a prerequisite to work for us.
How do you measure the curiosity, or how do you know that someone is a curious person?
Well, because if they're curious about what we're doing, then that's a starting point. I'm more interested in the question. If we were going to interview someone, or someone was going to come to Swipe for a Cause, I'm more interested in the questions they're asking than I am in their resume. Yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because if they're asking the right questions. And you just know, you have a feeling, okay, this person generally cares. This person is great salesman. That's great. But do they care? Are they curious? Are they asking the right questions? And one of the things I think about, the whole BNI giver's gain.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this earlier today. I was like, why is that Why has that been such a successful, why is it the most successful aspect of BNI? And I think that the reason that is the curiosity. When you're having a one-to-one with someone and you're curious about their business and you're not selling to them your business, and you start learning about what they do and you start getting to know that person, and maybe it might take a couple one-to-ones, but you're seeing them every week. You start, instead of just, it's not about business, you're having breakfast or whatever, your BNI, wherever ours is really, really early. We're the earliest one in Alabama, I think. While you're having breakfast, you're like, hey, by the way, how is your son doing? You were telling me blah, blah, blah. He was, he just tried out for football or whatever. And then you're just having these conversations because you remember and you have a relationship. So you're actually curious. And you're curious about why they do their business. And the people in BNI, the people who join BNI, they generally are not just doing a job. They're actually people who care about their business. Their business ties them with their life. They have a good balance of life. And the thing is that, and I've noticed this about Alabama BNI, which is unique, is it teaches a balance too. It teaches a balance between your personal life, your work life, and just your just balancing your life, your spirituality, your balance, I don't want to get too weird, but there is something there that I've noticed here. Not just a genuine caring about each other, but it also somehow you learn to balance and you check in with each other. And there's like a balance. You're balancing your life. You're kind of measuring, what's important and how is it important, and learning how to adapt your business to the things that are important in life, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm going to take that as a humongous compliment because I didn't realize that is trickling down. But everything you just said is wholeheartedly my belief of, one, BNI is supposed to be a positive and fun and supportive thing, but also your business should be as well. And so I just appreciate that so much. So we're going to keep digging into this conversation over the course of the month. We're going to be talking in the next segment about cooperating and collaborating with competitors, because we had a great conversation about that. And so I want everybody else to really understand kind of how you can do that and what that perspective ultimately looks like as well. So thank you so much for tuning in this week to Overlooked to Consistently Booked, and join us next week as we continue our conversation with Dutch and talk about collaborating with competitors. If you like real conversations like this, please like and subscribe to the channel and drop us a comment below on something you'd like us to dig into next. And if you are interested in learning more about BNI and how it could be a resource for your business, visit northern.bni Alabama or bni.com if you are outside of Northern Alabama. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.